He's never fought us. Not us united.
Die. Oh! I can so see that. That's it. Welcome to Under Two Capes. I'm Jared. I'm here with my good friend Robert Willing. What's up, dude?
Robert Willing. Yep. Hey, thanks for having me on. Finally, a topic we can agree on.
Oh yeah, so we're talking about why Jimmy Olsen's important. Lord knows I've done multiple videos on why I think Lois Lane is non-essential. But so I decided to change it up.
Yeah, and how did that go last time?
Actually, really well. It was a really well-performing piece of content.
Yes, it was. I think we both did pretty well that time.
Yeah, we both did.
Sorry, I have my dog here, my family's dog.
Good. All good. So we're talking about why Jimmy Olsen's important to Superman. And because this, I 100% say he is very important. Chief among it, he is Clark's first friend when he comes to Metropolis, and the one that's like, okay, he's like...
Arguably, not in a lot of interpretations, yes, but not all. Again, in a lot of other interpretations, Lois was his first friend.
Of course. But
No. I mean it, dude.
Yeah.
Golden and pre-crisis, post-crisis, in those two versions, he met them, the Lois first. New 52, yes, he met Jimmy first and befriended Jimmy first. Actually, what other ones has he befriended Jimmy first besides New 52?
Was it in Earth 1?
No. Earth 1, he met both of them at the same time.
Okay. How about Secret Origin? By Jeff Johns.
He met Jimmy at the same time. That's the thing. Most times than not, New 52 is the only one where he met Jimmy first before meeting any of the other Planet staff. Now, so usually when he meets them, yes, he met Lois first in the pre-crisis because Jimmy didn't exist, and post-crisis, yes, because Jimmy came in a little bit later. But most of the versions, he meets him and Jimmy at the same time. He meets Lois.
Okay, that makes sense, but...
Yeah, sorry, I didn't mean to come off to a rough start. I was just trying to ask an honest question.
I appreciate that. But what I see about Jimmy also is because...
He's his pal.
He's his pal. They had a comic book series, which is weird as hell, but they had a comic book series called Superman's Pal, Jimmy Olsen.
Which Jack Kirby is the one that made it a name for it. Otherwise, people would just think, oh, it's where Jimmy became all those weird stuff.
It's where it's just, Jimmy became a god at one point or something like that. But, yeah, I know. But it's like he serves. Okay, it's because if there's one person that I think kind of serves, I still don't think the humanizer thing works here. But it's still because when Clark comes to Metropolis, not only is he moving to a new place and as any human knows that can be a very stressful time, very isolating time. But he also comes there and decides, I'm going to use superpowers to save everyone. And I think Jimmy Olsen is one of the first people that is one of the first.
Okay, yeah. Again, go with that. I will go with that.
That absolutely accepts him for who he is and says, no, this
yes. Oh, yes. Hands down, he is, at least with Superman. With Clark, it depends on the version again.
Well,
Clark,
yeah.
But Superman, you are absolutely right. Even Secret Origins had that where, although I gotta say, there's one thing I'm not a fan of. I am not a fan that Superman would not do the dramatic pose right away. He just he's so awkward. I'm like, I know, and it took Jimmy to suggest it. I'm like, I'm not a fan of that. That felt a little. A friend of mine put it best. Superman kind of has this "who just farted" look on his face when he's standing that.
He does. Yeah, exactly. That's a good one.
Yeah, it's like "who just farted" kind of a look. Whereas, but so it's like, and I also don't like that he staged the photos. That also is like, Jimmy's supposed to be a natural with the camera. But funny thing. Did you know post-crisis, Jimmy's mom was a looker?
Really?
I mean, she had gray and white hair and everything, but let me look it up.
Yeah, go ahead.
Because I gotta show you that. But most of the versions, he's either a his. Sorry.
Oh, okay.
I'm saying in most of them, he's either a Sorry. We're talking over
Why?
each other. I was just saying he's
Yeah,
either
because it's like delayed or
an
something like that.
orphan. Yep,
Mhm.
he's either an orphan or his parents don't want him or something. Post credits is the only time where we saw Jimmy's mom.
Wow, that's interesting. But yeah, and again, that's why I think he plays such an important role because he's like the first person that Clark is probably like, I can be myself around this person. In a way, he's kind of like I kind of
Yes.
call him the Metropolis Pete Ross. In a way.
To a degree. To a degree. And his connection with Jimmy.
Mm-hmm.
Jimmy is more like a little brother.
Yeah, kind of, but yeah, I could kind of see that. And Lois, at least in my mind, works better as a little sister, but that's besides the point. We've already discussed that. But and I always love some of my favorite Jimmy Olsen moments is where he's freaking out that he's like in danger in the middle of a superhero fight, trying to get a picture. He's like, I don't want to get killed right now.
Right. Sorry, I missed a lot of what you just said. Sorry.
No, it's all good. I said some of my favorite.
I am so sorry. I am so sorry.
Yeah, it's all good. Some of my favorite Jimmy Olsen moments are where he's like commenting about how he's in grave danger, trying to get an epic photo of Superman. He's like, I really hope I don't get killed.
Mm-hmm.
And then of course,
that's true.
That
is true. I remember times like that.
It's so funny.
Oh yeah, the times where like I went through all that to get that photo, and my finger was in the shot, or
yeah, I know. Like that's another important
person,
Perry White.
Oh yeah, a Perry I adored. In fact, I went over a while ago with Tavia on Superman Grounded. G. Will Wilson did one of the best issues with Perry that was a fill-in during that story.
I will say the best part of the identity reveal they did is that one page that's like no text, no dialogue.
One of the few
it's Superman
things.
revealing his identity. So well done.
Give them a hug and everything. Yes, Perry is so underrated.
Oh yeah. I
mean, so is my favorite line. Lois Lane, meet Clark Kent.
Yeah, exactly. That's my one problem with like Man of Steel and BVS is that there's no Jimmy Olsen. Well, that
I would have accepted Jenny Olsen. I would have accepted her if that girl was going to be, because I've heard people say that was supposed to be her, but and be Jimmy, gender swap, but nothing came of it.
Well, here's the thing, though, is that also since they had that individual be the CIA, they could have just swapped the identity and just said this person assumed the press credentials of Jimmy Olsen and wasn't really Jimmy. So in a perspective Man of Steel 2, they could have always said, here's the real Jimmy Olsen.
If Snyder wanted to actually do that, who knows?
Yeah, but my point is that that's a one little like part where I'm like, okay, it could have been awesome. It could be even more awesome if you had this. But
right, but I think because the unfortunate thing is, and I do think this is a downside with Snyder and with Zach, a lot of people think Jimmy's useless. He's a load. He's the guy who, in Zach's mind, I think I said this before, he saw that Jimmy served no purpose.
Where do you say that?
I said, I think. I don't remember where he said it. I just recall somewhere saying that he kind of made a joke about killing off Jimmy because he had no purpose or something. And I do recall somewhere he had said something like that.
Well, I know we joked about, but here's the thing, though. At this point, if they were to continue it in like any form, they could always change that small detail and just say it was the CIA assuming his identity. So it's not like he would actually remain dead. That's the good part about it happening so early, is that, and in the way it did, you could just change it instantly.
You could, but anyway, but it is a legit downside, though, is that people do think Jimmy is the load, that he's. Oh, Z was the signal launch. It's like, no, Jimmy can be awesome. I don't know if you ever did you ever read the Nick Spencer, Jimmy Olsen story?
No, I didn't. I want to.
Oh, it is so good. I did a Pro Teacher Noob on that with Tavia as well. And basically, that's actually where they first attempt to bring in Chloe into the DC universe. Oh. Unfortunately, it was too little too late by that point.
Yeah.
like way too late. But yeah, but basically during that, Jimmy has an ego by that point because he has been so awesome. He's done all this cool stuff. You know, Superman's been on all these Avengers, and yeah, he's got an ego to the point where he is just all like ho hum. Like when something happens, he was all like, "Oh, I know what to do."
Yeah, exactly.
Like that's the type of way that Nick Spencer wrote. I mean, that was a good attempt at showing that Jimmy, who's seen it all, been it, done it all, and feels like he can handle all this, but then realizing that the ones he can't do is, well, stick together with some Chloe.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I like that. Again, see, here's the thing. There's no such thing as a boring writer. I mean, a boring character or like a useless character, really. It just depends on what the writer does with the character. And I'll admit, there are times when Lois Lane is used to fantastic, like, abilities.
The birds of prey sequence.
Yeah, exactly. It just depends on how the writers have done it. And I've seen more fantastic writers nail Jimmy Olsen. Like, absolutely.
I will say this. If there's one downside with Jimmy is, though, more than Lois or any other character, where he stands in the greater scheme of things always gets shifted. You know, his dynamic shifted. There are times where, like, he's in a door where there was a point around the time of Electric Blue, he was actually ready to, left the planet and was starting to get his own TV segment. That's how old he was. And then they later de-aged him again. It's like, ugh. And then he seems to be the most, he de-ages much more than Jubilee and Kitty Pryde do at Marvel.
And John Kent, I had to say that.
Okay. He's only aged up once. I'm just saying, though, throughout his entire characterization, Jimmy has not had a consistent age. Have you ever noticed that?
That is true. It changes from story to story, and I'm like,
from writer to writer, I would more say. That's why I feel. That's always why I still praise the post-crisis era. When Mike Cronin was in charge, there was a consistent aging with Jimmy and everything. It was consistent. Then Infinite Crisis happened, and then that all went out the window.
Oh, yeah. It went out the window the minute DC expected me to believe that Superboy Prime punched reality and then brought Jason Todd back to life.
To be fair, though, that was not Jeff Johns' doing. People like to claim he did. Like, no, that was Marv Wolfman who did it.
That was an Italian, correct? Where they actually said,
the Secret Origins. The Secret Origins.
Yeah. So I'm like,
from what I understood, Jeff Johns always. That's the reason why he had Rip Hunter say, "Punching reality, ridiculous."
Yeah, exactly.
There's a reason why that even he felt it was dumb. He rolled with it, obviously, because it happened. But yeah, with Jimmy, though, I think, though, now, I got to ask you this. What would you say is your definitive age range for Jimmy?
Probably like,
I'd say out of like
late 20s.
Really, for you? I would say late high school, early college. I think the definitive, because he's supposed to be beyond the average, Joe, and everything. He's supposed to be young, but not too young, but not too old, because you need him to actually be. I think the younger he is, but not too young, the more impressive his photos are compared to others.
Yeah, it's kind of like he's supposed to be like the young, naive person in the Superman circle.
At first, anyway. And that's where I think the other problem is. It's the same problem with a lot of things. When you have a new writer come in, the writer wants to then do their take on it, even though that character hasn't been that way in a while.
Yeah, exactly.
Jimmy seems to be the one that suffers that the most. It seems like Lois, you have editorial being saying, nope, this is how Lois is. And I think there's other cases where Lois doesn't suffer from, being put in that predicament, because a writer could still emphasize Lois, the journalist, over Lois, the wife, as in the later times. Whereas Jimmy, you can have Jimmy mature, but then he's the one who's more susceptible to being more dematured.
Yeah, and that's like part and parcel of the DC editorial idea that we talked about earlier, where they don't see Jimmy Olsen as like that much of a priority. So they're like, okay, do whatever the hell you want. We don't care.
Exactly. That's the unfortunate. Yeah, that is stupid. But I mean, because look, you go in the hierarchy, I actually think Perry gets more precedent over Jimmy these days.
I know. It's just like, I'm like, wait, why?
Why? Exactly. Why does he? Well, because he's the boss, I think. And again, I do think, unfortunately, you have some writers who think Jimmy is the goof, the tag along, the sidekick, the bumbling. I think a lot of people have thought. There's a lot of writers who think Jimmy is more danger prone than Lois is, because Lois has been shown more than Jimmy lately to be able to at least get her way out, either out of the pinch or at least put up a good fight. I do think her being just a pure damsel stigma is not tied to her as much as Jimmy's stigma is, where he's always using the signal watch to get out of it.
Yeah, if you want to talk about Superman saving anyone all the time because of the signal watch, yeah, it's Jimmy Olsen. But here's the thing, Lois has been in more dangerous situations because she's been in multiversal crises.
That's true. And yes, that is very true. But I'm saying, no, she doesn't usually need the signal watch to do it.
Well, yeah, but...
And don't say she screams for help, because she doesn't scream that often.
Well, because it's either Clark will hear her in distress somehow because he has super hearing,
or he happens to stumble upon where she's at, like
where she somehow knows how to pilot the Hellbat suit.
Well, to be fair, I think Batman would not make it that complicated for someone to be used.
But would Batman really share the Hellbat suit?
For someone who's the mother of his son's best friend, and also the loved one and wife of one of his closest friends, yes.
Okay, that's a discussion for another time.
Why? Lois is as good of a friend to Bruce as she is, to others. That's you gotta remember.
Yeah.
Would he trust Jimmy with it? No. Jimmy would probably more likely to go on a joyride with it just to pick up a girl.
Dude, I want that story where Jimmy Olsen gets access to Batman's Batmobiles and bat suits and just screws around.
Oh, he would dress up as Robin and say, "Hey, I'm Robin," and then get mistaken for the real Robin and get stuck in an adventure.
Yeah, it's like he could be abducted by the Joker because they think he's one of the Robins.
Yeah, but look, anyway, I think we're back to the topic at hand about the importance of Jimmy. Mm-hmm. I do think, look, I will say this. I can agree to you to a point, but is he more important than Lois? That's a discussion for another time.
Let me put it this way. He's one of the characters where I think there's really no debate that he's important. It's not like he's more than Lois. I'm just saying it's less of a debate.
Oh, yes. Ever since he was introduced, you need Jimmy there. That's why I was so ticked off that Snyder just seemed to want to casually just kill him off. There's a reason why so many people were pissed off about that.
And apparently no one can take a joke, but that's besides the point.
Okay, but you get my point, though, still, right? There's a reason.
No, I get it. That was one of the parts where I'm okay, you could change this, but what? That's why he made it so ambiguous. Maybe it was just the CIA.
Yeah, but I'm just saying though. But there's I'm not trying to downplay on Stack. I'm just saying there's a reason why people were ticked because they care for Jimmy that much.
Oh yeah, 100%.
That was my point. That was my point. That was my point entirely. There's a reason why, because they were, Ruby, knock it off.
It's all good.
But yeah, that's all I was trying to say.
Yeah, and I agree with you. There are. I get if fans are protective of these characters, and yeah, they have a right to be.
Oh yeah, especially when they're like, "Wait, that's it? That's his only appearance? Really?" That again, they could have. Let's not talk about hypotheticals. All right, just going off of what we've seen. If that was Jimmy and they just killed him off,
then as far as we know, I'll give you that. That is dumb.
Yeah, as far as we know, if we just take it at face value, that was Jimmy. He wasn't even a reporter. He was CIA. Bam, dead. Never going to appear again, as far as we know. Beyond stupid.
Yeah, that's 100. I agree with you. If that was, if he comes back and he doesn't change that,
but we don't know.
But
we do not know if that would ever have happened. So take it at face value.
At face value, it's stupid as hell. I'll give you that.
Exactly. Heck, with Perry. I don't care. As much as I like Lawrence Fishburne, I don't care for his version of Perry. He just felt like a generic, editor-in-chief of a newspaper. He didn't feel like Perry to me, and it wasn't because it was Lawrence Fishburne. I think Lawrence Fishburne could have done a great Perry, but again, he just felt too generic.
True, and again, it's because it was really early in the universe. But that's
but Perry should be well established, is what I'm saying. He's been at this for a while. I think he's one of those few characters where it being that early in the universe, shouldn't apply because he should have been at this already for a long time and be established as the Perry we know.
True. All right. But
yeah. Back to Jimmy.
But yeah, you know, it's one of my favorite Jimmy Olsen's in animation is like on the Earth 3 where he's like a big hulking like mafia like enforcer for Ultraman. That was great. I was like, oh, I see what you did there.
Yep, I like that as well. But yeah, Jimmy always seems vary in age. Like I said, I did love Earth 1 Jimmy because JMS has made it best. He was basing Jimmy off of a lot of other photojournalists he's known who said most of them are out of their freaking minds, as he would put it. Especially, I just love that whole like under the undercarriage. The undercarriage? How else would you expect me to get a good shot? It's like,
yeah.
And apparently he was dating Lois in this version.
Yeah, that's weird. But
yeah, that's the other thing. That's the only time Jimmy was older than Clark. That's the only time.
Really? That's interesting. That's interesting. But another version that I really think the version that I think is the weirdest. Yeah, the version I think is the weirdest is All-Star, where he gets like superpowers apparently.
Yeah. Oh. That age turned up to 11. Let's be honest. Yeah. That is what that one is. It's similar to what Nick Spencer did with him. He's basically taking the idea of Jimmy. If he's been through all these adventures in the Silver Age, this is where he would get to. He would be this peak. I've been there. I've done it all. I know what to do. Bring it at me.
Yeah, and plus it's also Grant Morrison, and Grant Morrison is known for doing really weird stuff, i.e., Final Crisis. But that's besides the point.
But again, though, and how is this any different from any of the stuff we got from the pre-Crisis Jimmy?
True. You know what I would love? I would love a book that's Jimmy Olsen, but he's in the other crises, like showing like what he was doing and like taking pictures during Infinite Earths, Infinite Crisis.
Speaking of which. Yeah. One event about taking photos of events, him taking the photo of Superman's death always gets me. Always. It's always like, as he said, these are great photos, probably the best of my career, but I give them all up to bring them back.
It's like, even in the Death of Superman animated movie, they did as part of that continuity. You see,
he's right. He's
not tears coming down, and I'm like, yeah, this is great.
Yep, and even when he's ready to sell himself out, he feels like I have no more integrity without Superman around. And I still remember Lois like, Jimmy, look at you. Oh, gee, rest in peace to that actress.
Mm-hmm.
You do know that she's no longer with us, right?
The voice actress?
Yeah, that was the one who died. She had that car accident a while back.
Wow.
Yeah.
I did not know that. Wow.
Yeah, let me double check. Superman Doomsday, that was...
No, it wasn't Doomsday. It was the Death of Superman animated movies, the one I'm talking about.
Superman Doomsday still had that moment too, though.
Yeah, it did, but...
Anne Hatcher was who I was thinking of.
Yeah. But... And actually, what's interesting is like he's saying with him saying without Superman I'm kind of a sellout. That also kind of testifies to the like what's the word to the value of Superman, because it's like he always inspires people to be their best selves. That's one of his roles in DC in general is what I think.
Yes, definitely. But again, in the case of Jimmy, when he's written well, he's written very well. Although, can I tell you one of the dumbest stories that happened recently? Sure. I still can't stand. He's somehow related to the Luthors, and from my understanding, the justification is the red hair.
That's it.
Apparently, that was the writer's justification, saying they both share red hair, so it's having to be they are distant relatives. Now, of course, Bendis later used that where, apparently he actually gets a small portion of Luthor's fortune. He uses that to buy back the planet, but.
Of course. Of course, what that means is that all redheads are related. Of course, that's what that means.
That was probably a joke for all we know. For all we know, that was a joke. But still, just this idea that he's somehow distantly related to Luthor, it's like, why?
Oh, and I'll tell you, my least favorite portrayal of Jimmy outside the comics is the Supergirl show, because they made him like this badass, and I'm like...
Again, I look at that. He's too much of a badass, But again, I do think they're trying to take this from the Jimmy man of action, which is what he was sometimes known as. There's a reason why they use that in Countdown. But again, that's what I noticed. With Jimmy, you have two different Jimmys, where he's just the reporter or he's man of action. Those are the two versions of Jimmy that sometimes intersect, but they're both relevant, equally valuable. But I prefer where he's just the reporter.
But yeah,
the photographer.
My point is that in that portrayal in Supergirl, we only got the man of action. It wasn't they got a nice balance of, because you need at least a balance of the two.
Yes, even All-Star All-Star had a good balance.
Oh yeah, that was great. I love.
Oh yeah, for a day where he was a whoever for a day, and I just loved it. It's like, oh great, it's like no, and Lucy, I was being the hobo king for the day. Sure. Oh boy, did they treat Lucy like Morrison right? Lucy like a a shallow in that.
Of course he did, but that's one of the many reasons why I love All Star.
Hey, since I don't know if you'll ever do a video about it, you know one other character at the planet I think deserves more love? Ron Troop.
Who's that?
The black journalist guy. He was introduced in post-crisis. Like whenever you see the planet staff, he's always the black guy. That's Ron Troop.
I never noticed.
Yeah, he was introduced in post-crisis. He's the one who got his start at some inspiration for what Clark had done by writing the story where the cyborg Superman saved the president. And then eventually he actually got Clark's position because Clark was assumed dead, and he's been around ever since. He even married Lucy and had a kid with her. Then they had to completely undo all that when they decided to have it be, oh, she wants to be daddy's little girl and become very villainous. But yeah, Ron Troop, and even New 52, he was there in Jeff Johns' arc he had done.
I'll check that out. Another thing that was interesting, what I noticed like last week, because on a buddy's channel, we do weekly watch-alongs of Superman and Lois. Have you noticed how Jimmy has not shown up at all in that show?
Yeah, what the hell?
Like, I'm saying this.
Not even being an Uncle Jimmy.
Yeah, not even being an Uncle Jimmy or like a buddy of Superman. He never. It's like he doesn't exist.
To be fair, that falls under the unfortunate thing of if there's a character you can cut and not focus on. If you have too many characters, Jimmy's the first one to do that, unfortunately.
True. And actually, on that note, we only see Perry for like an episode at most.
Oh, yeah, exactly. Now, again, for all we know, they might bring Jimmy in one point, but unfortunately, probably he's not important to any of the stories. And, you know, again, Perry you can't avoid because he's still running the planet.
Yeah, you kind of have to put him in.
So if you ever go there, you're of course going to have to see him eventually. Jimmy, I mean, have they ever mentioned? I forgot. Have they even mentioned Jimmy?
No, never. That's the weird part. It's not like they said, "Oh, Jimmy's doing really well at the planet." No, never.
Yeah, maybe he doesn't exist in this world,
which is weird. But it's like,
yeah. But again, yes, it was the exception of Superman and Lois. There's always Jimmy. Look at Superman Red Sun.
Oh yeah, I love that one where he's a CIA. He's the
CIA, and eventually it's Lex Luthor's second in command,
and then becomes the president of the United States at the end of it.
No, that's in the anime movie. In the actual
that's
thing.
The animated movie. All right.
Oh, do not get me started in that anime movie. Oh God, I do not like.
There are a lot of things I don't like about that anime movie, like making Wonder Woman only a lesbian.
Just because, of course, she's from Island of Women. It's like, James DeMatteis, you're better than this. What the hell?
I'm like,
that's what bothers me the most. Is J.M. DeMatteis. He's better than this.
Yeah, I mean, at least here's the thing. At least Rucka said, "Well, she's bi because she comes from there, so it makes sense."
Yeah, so it makes her more open
here.
To it. I know, but it's like it makes her more open to it because the way I see it is, here's why I see it. Yes, if they have the urges like anyone else does, they're going to relieve their urges. So they're open to the idea of having sex with each other, but it's not like without the hang-ups. Not even friends. It's not even friends with benefits. It's just, you got the urge.
Plus,
what are you going to do?
It's Greek society. What do you expect?
Exactly.
But
exactly.
It's like because here's why Wonder Woman being bi works. She loves everyone.
Exactly. Like I said, so that's why it bothers me when people complain saying she's not bi. It's like, why wouldn't she be?
Well, here's my point on that is that Here's why, to a degree, I agree with them, because DC hasn't done anything with that.
True, except Morrison did. Morrison did.
Well, Morrison did, but that I'm saying mainstream Wonder Woman, they never did that. They never did anything with that character.
I think you could imply that some other stuff was Cheetah, was Barbara, could imply it.
But they haven't really done anything.
Oh no, they haven't. In fact, they just had Barbara kiss a woman recently.
Well, Barbara is a different story. I'm talking about Diana.
I was just pointing that out. But yeah, again, I'm just saying.
Well,
I do think that's meant to be an implication of,
Plus, I was having a conversation with a friend of mine, and here's why, to a degree. Here's her argument for why Wonder Woman being bi, because she comes from that island, doesn't work. Because all those people on the island, you have to understand this, are her aunts pretty much. Because remember, she was like the first child on Themyscira in like a really long time.
I don't think they look at it that way. I do not think their familiar structure goes that way, in my opinion. In my opinion, she calls them sisters. Now, of course, that's in a...
Well, yeah.
No. That's in a figurative sense, as in the sisterhood.
Yeah, but when I hear that, I do kind of agree on that. But here's the thing. That's one of those things where it makes sense that Wonder Woman would be that way. So that's why I'm like, okay, fine. But
no, I don't. I get what I'm just saying. I'm giving my own counterpoint to it.
Yeah. And that works. I appreciate it.
I don't think she's ever looked at him like an aunt. She's looked at him like her sisterhood. That's why I'm emphasizing that sisterhood, because you could. It's not saying that your sisters in the, mentally you think, oh, she's my sister, we're related. It's more like, no, these are my fellow sisters.
Yeah, okay, I kind of.
And also, when you're around for that long, I do think such other mindsets go right out the window when you're practically immortal.
Referring back to my previous point, it's Greek society. If you read anything about
Greek history, that too. I'm just saying though, when you're pretty much immortal, you're gonna experiment. You're gonna do all sorts of things. That's why. That's why I always have. It never bothered me when you have Loki saying that he's done a whole lot. He's the god of mischief. Why wouldn't he be curious and do anything?
And hasn't he spent time as a woman at some point?
Both in disguise and legitimately gender bent. Yes.
Yeah. So I'm like,
the time in disguise, he was possessing Sif.
Yeah, but I'm like, that makes sense. But
even before that. But yeah, but back to Jimmy. But again, Jimmy, I'll say this. He is important. And I think here's what I think. Can I suggest you renaming this stream as why Jimmy should not be forgotten or something like that?
That's
a better.
I'm gonna title the episode that.
Like why he shouldn't be forgotten. Because unfortunately, since you brought Superman Lois and we had the Snyderverse, he seems to be the one most likely to be cut.
Well, technically, he wasn't forgotten.
Well, oh no, but even then, he was the one most likely to be cut loose.
Yeah.
Again, going off of what we have, not what theoretically could have happened.
What we have, yes.
On face value, Jimmy was expendable.
Mm-hmm. And which, here's the thing. That's not really a ding against Snyder when you think about it. It's just a ding against DC in general because they all consider that that way.
That's true. So. Well, that's true. But I think they also saw it's another universe. Yes, we have control, but we don't need to enforce it. No, don't kill him. So I think DC looks at it that way too.
True. But, okay, so the one thing I do have faith about in, like, the James Gunn Superman movies, I don't think he's going to forget Jimmy. I think he'll show up.
I do. Now, here's the other question. Are you all right with a black Jimmy after Supergirl, or do you think he should stay the redhead?
Quite frankly, since there's so few redhead characters in content nowadays.
Legit redheads, too, at that.
Legit redheads. I think.
Yeah, because don't get me started on people bring up April O'Neil saying, oh, it's Ginger's eye, when it's like, she's only been a ginger since the animated cartoon, guys.
Which a lot of people have grown up upon, so that's why they have those feelings.
But it's one of the ones where you can argue it, saying they're not always a ginger.
True.
Whereas Mary Jane always been a ginger.
Yeah, she always has.
Lois has been a brunette, but I've noticed she's always varied. She's either black-haired or brown-haired, with the brunette.
Or kind of red hair-ish in the Snyderverse.
Well, yeah, that's Amy Adams, of course. So.
But
with Jimmy though,
mm-hmm.
Yeah, I do not like Black Jimmy. I'll be honest. I do not care for that because it doesn't feel like he's Jimmy.
Yeah, and the problem with that, with like Supergirl, is that they also picked like a very confident, muscular. He became Guardian.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. He became Yeah. Jimmy's never been Guardian before.
I'm like, what?
Yeah. The only other, you know what black person did become Guardian? What's his name? He blows the horn on the Titans. He married Bumblebee.
Oh, Icon?
Not Icon. Bumblebee.
I'm not that familiar with.
Hold on.
It's not Static. Who else?
It is Duncan.
Okay.
Mal Duncan.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but it's
he became him at one point, and he was black. I think they added elements of Duncan to him.
And that's the thing. That's just the CW taking
Harold was his name. He was also known as the Herald.
Yeah, that's like the CW taking stuff by name only because they want to say, no, we have Jimmy Olsen. He's in this show.
But he's pretty much Mal Duncan without the powers.
Exactly. But I do think you need to have that. You need to have a balance of the bumbling person and the competent
Alfred E. Newman. Jimmy was always a competent Alfred E. Newman. What?
Yeah,
me worry?
That. You can't have it one way or the other. It has to be both. That's what the character is.
Okay, here's the bigger question: bow tie or no bow tie?
Oh, that's a good question. Honestly, I could go either way because bow tie works, but who wears a bow tie outside nowadays?
The 11th Doctor.
I mean, in the real world.
Come on, bow ties are cool. He was making bow ties cool.
It's to the point where where the general audience is gonna go like,
dork.
Yeah, exactly. Which actually, when you think about it, that works for Jimmy. So I'm like, okay.
I would say this though. I guess I've kind of realized it now. Jimmy, there is one downside with Jimmy. Even going back to even the Reeves movie, Jimmy was just there.
Yeah, they have to give him a.
That's the other thing that is the problem with Jimmy in most things. Even the anime series, David commented a great job of Jimmy in the anime series, but even then, Jimmy's just there.
Mm-hmm.
That is the one downside for Jimmy.
What they could do is that
there because unfortunately, yeah.
Based on the plot synopsis for the Superman movie, it's like Superman trying to like reconcile his Kryptonian heritage with his human heritage, and he's already in Metropolis. They could honestly give Jimmy more of a role. Like, wasn't there a time in the comics when Clark and Jimmy were actually roommates?
Briefly, but that was like 1 year later. No. He was with Lois by that point. Actually, no. I think that was only New 52. Was the only time they ever said that.
No, I'm saying they could adapt that to give him more of a role in the storyline.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Definitely. Again, I really want. And again, it goes back to that problem of, and you and I should do a video about this. Do people take Clark Kent for granted? Because it feels like so many times in the adaptation, Clark is important, but they always want to just get the Superman. And we don't get much of Clark's personal life in any of these, in the movies anyway. The shows, yes. The movies, no.
Well, because here's why.
Smallville, Jimmy.
Because again, it gets to again. I say the general audience a lot, but here's why. When they go to a Superman movie, instead of one that's labeled Clark Kent, they want to see Superman.
Oh no! I know, but we should at least have a Clark Kent subplot or something. Is what I'm saying.
Which I think James Gunn is gonna have that because when you read his plot synopsis, it is that he's trying to like reconcile that.
And I think that's what we need because that does lead to the downside of people want Superman to be Superman all the time. They expect him to be Superman all the time, which is not something you want Superman to do. There's a downside to being a hero 24/7. You lose the perspective.
Yeah, and that is when you lose the humanity. That's when you lose it. That's when I'll agree that that Superman can lose his identity. He told Majestic that
once. He told Majestic that when Majestic came to the DC universe. He said, You seem like an on all the time hero. I take time off for my to be a human, to have that perspective. Are you saying I should have that perspective? Couldn't hurt.
Look at this. Look at Injustice. Among the many things, he got rid of that Clark Kent identity.
Clark died. Yeah. Even Kingdom Come had that.
Yeah. So I'm like, and remember, what does Wonder Woman do when Kingdom Come to remind him that he's
Give
human?
him the glasses and everything, but that's after she came back from her own issues too. Beforehand, she was, even though when she called him Clark and he said Cal, she doesn't argue with it after that.
No, but remember, that whole story is about the superheroes really regaining their humanity. So that's
exactly
that
was the whole point. And in her case, I'll be honest. Okay, I don't want to go on about that one, but still, Smallville, Jimmy, or should I say Doomsday?
Oh my gosh! You mean when they turn?
And they revealed it was his brother. They killed him and then revealed it was his brother.
Oh my gosh! Again, that's one of my many problems with the Smallville show. It's great, but it's that, and then the fact that they bring in such Z-tier cameos. And then there's like no reference of Bruce or Diana. No saying.
Bat embargo.
But they couldn't say.
And Wonder Woman 2. Wonder Woman 2. That was still at that point where Wonder Woman was very tied up in legal issues.
But they couldn't say. Okay,
no,
so you couldn't even say Bruce Wayne's over there in Gotham doing something. No. Oh wow, I didn't know that.
No, those embargoes prevent you from even mentioning them. Those embargoes always prevent even a reference. Hence why they usually would have to come up with some XP or something. You cannot do that at all. Someone might slip in a little visual gag, but that's like Wayne Tech or something. But that's something you can just put in the background. You don't have to run it by legal.
But Supergirl actually did a good way of doing it. They said, by
Supergirl, most of that's been ironed out. I'm saying back with Smallville, it was hell. That's part of the reason also why they were insisting on you couldn't have. I think it was they had to have Stephanie Brown. No, someone wanted Stephanie Brown, but they had Barbara Gordon. It was one of the things. They either wanted Batgirl or someone, and then they were told you had to change it. That was in the the season 11 comic.
Yeah. And it's kind of funny. Immediately this season, when I was reading the comics for Smallville, and they get to Batman and Wonder Woman, I'm like, this is way better.
Oh, yeah. Hey, that's one thing I love that we wish we actually had that as a proper season 11. The fact they also did the Crisis in season 11.
They had the Justice League, the actual Justice League.
I mean, no, to be honest, though, let's be honest, though, that would have been very cost prohibitive. That's taking advantage of the it being a comic.
Well, yeah, that's true.
Look at what we got when they finally did Crisis in the Arrowverse.
That's why I say, hey, if they can't bring the Snyderverse back as like a show or a movie, comic.
Oh, and I agree. I'm not arguing that, but like I said, though, Jimmy deserves better, is what I say.
Yes, 100%.
These days, Jimmy deserves better. I do know Jeff Johns loves Jimmy. Oh, but I'm trying to think about other writers. Again, Nick Spencer, Matt Fraction, because he did that whole series, even though I'm not a huge fan of it. It's still better than nothing.
Grant Morrison, maybe?
Grant Morrison. I'll say this. Even Bendis, to a degree, did not hate Jimmy.
Bendis just hated Superman, and it's plain.
No, he hated Clark.
He hated Clark.
I think
to a degree Lois, because when you think about it, wasn't there like a subplot where it's implied that Lois was like having sex with Lex Luthor?
No. They were just working together on her book. Her book was way more important. We were meant to get that implication, but it was made clear, no, they weren't having sex.
But no, I know that, but why even bring that up?
You're right. But I'll say it's still better than what's going on with Spider-Man currently.
Oh, yes. Don't even get me started on Marvel's
apparently now, those are her kids.
Or, I've always loved Mary Jane as a friend.
Okay, no, we're not talking about, I'm talking about the recent issue.
Where what happens? I'm sorry.
You didn't see the recent issue?
No.
It turns out they were the whole thing like a year ago or whatever. They were stuck. They're in this little alternate dimension, this void. That's where the last issue ended. Turns out we found out Paul is in there. They meet. They find out this thing is trying to kill Peter. So what does MJ do? When Peter was ready to say, "You two go back to the railroad. I'll deal with this," she smacks the device that sends him back. He's sent back there. And now we know he's going to struggle and get back there and probably show up and find out, Paul and MJ got together while he was fighting his life to get back to her.
So that's the whole, what did Peter do a year ago?
That's part of it. He's going to basically break all of his friendship, try and get back to MJ, only for it to probably end up being for nothing.
That is the stupidest thing that I've ever heard of in a Spider-Man
That's the
comic.
implications anyway, was where it ended. But the fact that she stuck with Paul in this other dimension, who knows how time works there, and basically Peter's going to have to now try and struggle to get his way back to her.
What is it with Marvel and their apparent hatred of Mary Jane Watson? I don't understand this.
Except for Spencer.
Except for Nick Spencer, which I love that run.
That's something that Nick Spencer and JMS both have in common. They were the two who loved MJ. And when they were on the book, MJ was safe. She was protected. As soon as they're gone...
I'll tell you a funny story. So I was scrolling through Twitter one day, and I came across a Dan Slott tweet where he said that...
I'm blocked by him.
You know what he said? This is the funniest thing. So he said, because the new Spider-Verse trailer had just come out, he's like, I'm fine with with Peter B. Parker, the Spider-Verse Peter, being married to MJ and having kids. I just think the 616 Peter is better off being single. And I'm like,
you're the one who did the Mary.
Not only that, I put in the comments, okay, but isn't the 616 Peter the Peter B. Parker from Spider-Verse? It's actually confirmed. So you're contradicting your... Yeah, I looked this up. It actually is.
Wait. But mainstream Peter's not Jewish.
Jewish?
Yes. Don't you remember when they showed him getting married to MJ in the first movie? Mazel tov and everything. They actually did a Jewish wedding.
Yeah, but hang on, because I looked it up, and Peter B. Parker, and it said that he is the Peter of 616.
He can't be.
It says it. It says it right there.
But he can't be, though, because he's Jewish.
They probably just changed that for the movie. But my point is, he contradicted himself in one sentence.
But I think in his mind, because of the Jewish connection, he is seeing them as two different Peters.
Well, it could be also because movie and comics are different.
Exactly.
If he had said comics Peter, then I would have gotten that.
No, but again, though, according to the MCU, that's 616.
Well,
so again, we have 3 616s now.
Not according to Kamala to Iman Vellani. She says no, it's actually this Earth.
Yeah, but then they seem to retcon it.
Yeah, which is weird. But my point is, it's really. I'm like, you even wrote the story, so you should know this. If he had said comics Peter, then it would be a different story. But he said 616.
No, but again, when people think 616, they think comics.
Okay, well,
so majority, 9 people out of 10 people would think who are comic fans would know that's comic Peter. Oh, geez, which made me realize the question I want to ask: who's the better photographer, Peter or Jimmy?
Oh, geez, I would say probably Peter, because here's why.
Peter, but barely.
Here's why: because he's able to multitask and be a superhero and get all those shots of Spider-Man that look fantastic.
Even when he's not holding the camera. I think it's more like he's having it set for automatic flash and he just gets lucky shots.
Yeah, but he knows how to frame up the shot, how to get the lighting right.
Yeah, but sometimes I question it. Sometimes I question some of those when he's doing it in the middle of the action. It's like, okay, how did you know you were going to get that perfect angle during that?
Wasn't there a comic where he had Black Cat taking pictures of him when he was in the black suit fighting?
Yeah, I think there might have been, but still,
that was great.
But I would say though, for not having superpowers, I do think if he didn't have the advantage of the powers, I think Jimmy would have been a better photographer.
Well, in a way, he is, because he's putting himself at risk to get those epic shots when you have gods fighting in your city.
Yep, and I mean, obviously a lot of times he's so like, I'm gonna die, but other times
this is not good. This is not good.
Click.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, this is not good. Click. This is not good. Click.
Yeah, exactly. Oh my gosh, Superman save me. Where's the single watch thing working?
Yeah, but I prefer Jimmy, who's only that way when it's truly no hope to get out.
Yeah, exactly.
I don't prefer Jimmy, who's a coward throughout majority of his time in the middle of the action. Unless he's with Lois, in which case, like, Lois, what are you doing?
Yeah, I do love that interactions when he's with. Yeah, go ahead.
Sorry, no, go ahead.
I do love his interactions with Lois, where Lois is going into danger, and then Jimmy's like, "Are you crazy?"
Yeah, but I'll say it though. I do love the character growth of Jimmy in New Frontier.
Oh yeah.
He's in the very first one. He's a stowaway. He's not a reporter. But Lois creeps him around, and then by the end of it, when Lois is breaking down because she thinks Superman is dead, and this one guy's like, "Oh, he just needs a man's arm to cry on." He's like, now grown man Jimmy's like, "She loved him, you idiot, man. What an ladies man, what an ass."
Yeah, I love that. Yeah,
So I love it. He went from this naive, overeager boy to a young man.
Mm-hmm.
I love that, and that's just within the span of a few years.
Yeah. I love that. So,
That's what I feel. Jimmy is that type. I think that perfectly emulates Jimmy's journey. Was a New Frontier, from this overeager stowaway to a young man who's able to be the shoulder for Lois to cry on.
Plus, when you think about it, he has Superman as a role model too, going back to their deep friendship. So it's like, of course, he would have this growth as soon as he meets this guy.
Yeah, which we don't see much of that in New Frontier, but still, I'm just saying.
I'm saying in general.
Oh, I know. I'm agreeing in general. I'm just saying we don't see much there.
I wish you see what I wish we had, and then we'll wrap up. Is a Superman and Jimmy Olsen movie, where it's just them doing stuff. Speaking of the Clark Kent, like the balance of Clark Kent, because I feel like. Then you get time to flesh out that friendship that is so important to Clark.
Give us Steve Lombard. Give us Cat Grant.
Lombard. They technically had him in the Snyderverse, though.
Oh yeah, he was that older guy. It's like
older guy.
That was Steven name only. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I gotta tell you, that's another one where I gotta say the Daily Planet staff I was not the biggest fan of in the Snyderverse.
This is why I still say Jenny. I would have accepted her as Jenny Olsen because she actually came off so much like Jimmy.
Yeah, there was the option there. There was the.
You could have, and I think people would have accepted her.
Yeah, but it's like I was reading like any Superman comics, even the new 52, and I'm reading Steve Lombard, and I'm like, I like this version a lot better.
What? The comic version? Yeah,
the comic version is way better.
Yeah, he's this big, guy who's like egotistical, like, oh yeah, I did football in my day, and I just love the secret.
Lois. I'm like, oh, this is great.
I just love. But anyway, one other thing was this whole Superman, this cartoon they have coming out, that Superman where you have another black Jimmy, but probably one that actually looks closer to traditional Jimmy. That cartoon they have coming up, Superman and his pet friends. He kind of look like
Jimmy, so it's like.
So, yeah, I mean, I'm hoping that'll do much better for Jimmy.
If the cartoon even comes out, because
there's still talk that it's still going.
Well, that's Warner Brothers, because we all know there was talk that Batgirl was happening.
True, but they've reached a point now where I don't think they're going to do any more write-offs.
True, okay, but...
And if we haven't heard about it being canceled now... I mean, this is the same people who are still going through with the Evil Dead movie.
Right. Also, speaking of that cartoon, when they revealed the character designs, those character designs look freaking dope.
I know. So when I see people complain, it's because they made Jimmy black. I'm like, he still looks like Jimmy, except for the skin color. It's better than Supergirl Jimmy.
As long as he acts like the character, I could care less. And as long as they don't make race the primary component of the character, where like he has this whole thing about, oh, my race, I went through this. That's my problem with race bands, that modern writers will make that the only part of the character.
Yeah, and it's I will agree with that. But again, I do think, given that smile on his face and everything, and like I say, looking at that looks like what you would imagine from Lois, Clark, and Jimmy. That image we keep seeing everywhere. That looks like him. Lois will be like, come on, Kent, let's get going. Jimmy's just like, right behind you, kind of a look.
Exactly.
It's like, seriously, that's Lois. Why are people complaining? That's how Lois would look like. Why? Because they're assuming. Because if you notice, most of their complaints are assumptions. They're assuming that
we haven't even gotten a trailer yet.
Yeah, it's like, now if we see the trailer ends up sucking, then yeah, I'm going to bash on it. If it's going to give all those fears coming true, yeah. But from one image that's been around for like 2 years.
Yeah, which, by the way, again, and the show looks actually pretty decent, so it could be actually pretty cool, and it could show the friendship between Jimmy and Clark.
Which I want. That was why one of the few things, I would say, one on the downside, Lois and Clark. I don't think Jimmy was even in that.
Oh, you mean
Lois and
Dean
Clark: The
Cain
New Adventures of
series?
Superman.
Oh wow, I still haven't watched that. I still have to watch that show.
Oh, that is a great Lex, though. One of the best Lexes.
Awesome. I gotta watch. I'll watch
And
that
a
later
great
on today.
Perry. And a great Perry.
Sweet.
Yeah, but everything else, it varies. And unfortunately, as hot as Lois Lane is in that, there's a reason why that's where you coined the phrase, Lois Lane. How dumb was she?
Yeah, that's my other problem with Lois Lane is that, okay, so she's
In that show, she's dumb. But I'm saying in other versions, she ain't.
Hey, say what you want about Zack Snyder. She figured out Clark was Superman in the first movie.
Other versions have had it be she could come close. But Clark is either that good at putting on an act or disparaging. I'm not talking about pre-crisis. I'm talking about post-crisis.
Well, yeah, and
there are times when she comes so close. So close.
Here's the thing about that. People think it's just the glasses, but no.
Look at that scene with Christopher Reeves. Yeah. That whole like, hey, Lois, and
yeah, he scrunches. He's much more confident, and he's Superman. It's a whole site. Plus the fact he's playing off of psychology. If he acts like a total ass, no one's gonna believe that this guy is Superman.
I know, but hey, Lois. I mean, even post-crisis, had it be there's still a slight difference. There's a temper in his voice and everything. There's a reason why post-crisis he had workout dumbbells and everything, so he could actually still be able to convince why he has a similar build to Superman.
But I love where he's super strong.
These are lightweights, Clark.
Yeah, he has no concept of like weight because he's super strong.
So she's all like, wow, these are slighter than the ones I have. How do you have your build? He's like, whoops.
You're like, whoops, I think I should have thought about that more. But on that note, I think it's a
yes.
But Robert, where can one find you, and what have you got coming out on your channel?
Well, obviously, as the time of us recording it, but whenever you post this, I'm going to be starting my Resident Evil Let's Plays.
Yeah,
yep.
There you go.
And starting from 0 onward. Now, I want to make this point out. I'm going to openly admit I'm going to use the infinite ammo cheats on it. Just the ammo cheats, because that's not much of a breaker as people think.
Plus the fact that game gives you such few ammo.
It's the whole point is survival horror, yes.
Yeah, but if you want to play it as like a straight-up action game, yeah, go.
Oh, no. I'm not playing up like a straight-up action game. But because I've noticed even with the ammo, it's still hard.
Well, that's just Resident Evil, too. Plus, here's the thing. Resident Evil has such a screwy controller scheme. It's like, I played
not the versions I've got. The versions I've got, it's more like from the later games.
Yeah, it's like I played 6 on the Xbox 360, and I'm like, I hate this so much.
Oh, 6 is actually pretty good on the PC.
Yeah, but I'm saying I had on the Xbox. It's like left trigger is take cover. I'm like, who thought of this?
But yeah.
It's not aim. Who thought of this?
But like I said. But yeah, so I'm going to be deep into that. I've got a whole bunch of Pro Teachers noobs still in the can, not nearing any milestones for a while. And yeah, that's pretty much all else I've got. I'm hoping to get up to 4,000 still, but let's just say I had to remove a bunch of videos recently, so that brought down my view count, watch hours quite a bit. So I'm having to build myself back up again.
It gets there. It gets there. It all stacks up. Particularly live streams are really good for that.
Yep. But, so yeah, that's all I've got.
What I got is so now I have up on my channel. So what I did is I took Snyderverse footage and made a trailer if they adapted the first arc of the Superman and Wonder Woman comic from the New 52, the one where they fight Zod. The trouble was. And here's a little behind the scenes stuff. Superman and Wonder Woman don't interact a lot in the Snyderverse movies we have. So what I literally did is I took shots of like her and Steve Trevor from the back. So you don't.
I get it. Because they don't interact that much.
Well, it's like when he comes back, it's like off to war. But my point is, I had to really like mess with angles in this to make this look mostly. Luckily, it wasn't that hard, so it was. You
probably have a better shot doing Last Son than you would have doing that story.
Yeah. Well, and also here's the thing. If I want to do a sequel, I can't because here's the problem. There's so few footage of Doomsday And that would be so hard to like put the Superman suit on him if I wanted to adapt that arc or like
Superman doomed.
Yeah, which by the way was an awesome storyline.
Oh, you and I should do a video talking about that. Just going over that. Not a Pro Teacher Noob, obviously, but in general, just talking about that because
I like that.
That is one of my favorite New 52 stories. Was because and it starts one way and it ends something completely different.
Yeah, it ends with a Brainiac invasion. I'm like, what the?
Which makes you wonder, how much do you think they had that thought out, and how much of it they go fly by the seat of their pants?
I'm sure it was fly of the seat of their pants to DC. But also, I like how they took because Doomsday shows up, and you automatically think, okay, Superman's gonna die.
We've seen him evolve through all these preludes up to it, like he became this giant squid creature, and then he bursts out of that, and he's burning everything, and then finally Superman faces him, and then he rips him in half. It's like this is a weak Doomsday by comparison.
And then he like breathes him in, and then he becomes Doomsday. And I like that idea because technically, if Superman became Doomsday, Superman would die in a and then
you had that point where technically for a brief moment he did in his mind where Doomsday he released Doomsday grabbed him and snapped his neck. Of course, next issue they didn't go anywhere. Was that?
Yeah, and also one of the best Superman and Wonder Woman moments because Wonder Woman is debating, do I have to kill my boyfriend because he's going to kill everyone else? You made me promise that if it came down to it, I would do what was necessary.
Because they also realize they need the Doomsday stuff once Brainiac shows up.
Well, yeah, but I'm saying even you can admit that was a pretty dope.
Yes. Moment. I will agree. That was that because here's the thing, though, that could apply even if she wasn't his boyfriend.
Well, yeah, but
that's what I'm saying. That's why I say I agree with that because it could apply to both.
True. I think it hits more.
Oh no, it hits harder. It does hit harder. I'm not arguing that. I'm not arguing that. I'm not saying the fact that it can apply to both is why I like it so much. But it does hit harder when it's that way because it feels that's a Wonder Woman moment in general, but it hits harder. I agree.
Plus, any version of Wonder Woman, she would. If it came down to it, she 100% would.
Yes, but she would feel conflicted.
Yeah, she would 100%. In other words, the way she was portrayed in that scene,
that's how she would.
Was how she would be. But and plus, you could have got. Here's the thing: if they did an Elseworld story of that, what if she did kill Superman in that moment? That would be actually a really cool story, facing the trauma.
You know what? If they did it as a dark multiverse story, she could have become the next Doomsday.
Oh!
Wonder Doom.
Dude, that would have been so awesome.
Wonder Doom.
Dude, I want that book so much.
And that world will be
and of course, DC's not going to do that because they kind of nuked that whole initiative.
I think they might want. I think they'll do it again one day. I think they will do more batches of those dark multiverse. The dark multiverse is still out there.
Yeah, I know. Plus, that was such a great idea.
Well,
although when they tried to adapt like Crisis on Infinite Earths,
they focused on the ending of Crisis on Infinite Earths.
Yeah, but my point is like they start doing a lot of multiversal stories in the dark multiverse. You're telling me each Earth has its own multiverse?
Shows how much of a nerd I am. The Omniverse, the idea of the Omniverse, it's a multiverse of multiverses, meaning you could have an entire section of its own multiverse inside the Omniverse.
Which didn't they nuke the Omniverse in Dark Crisis?
No, they filled the Omniverse. Basically, they revealed. Here's what they revealed: when Death Metal happened, it was not a populated Omniverse. It was whatever was left over prior to Death Metal still existed, but it wasn't filled. Mm-hmm. So it was only like a handful of worlds that still existed of the 52.
Mm-hmm.
What Pariah did was he brought back the infinite universe and filled the Omniverse.
But what happened after that? Because I remember something happened too at the end of the event.
At the end of the event, like I said, at the end of the event, they stopped the Great Darkness. Mm-hmm. Or they calmed it down. They calmed it down. If they couldn't, you could not destroy the Great Darkness. There's no way. You had to calm it down to make it passive again. But basically, they made it very clear the Omniverse has been filled. It is now filled with infinite worlds. That now has been unleashed.
Okay, so they totally could, which I'm like, when I think about it, what if Wonder Woman became Doomsday? Oh my gosh. Even in like if they reverse it, where instead of Wonder Woman becoming Doomsday, it's instead of Superman becoming Doomsday, it's Wonder Woman and Superman has to fight a Doomsday Wonder Woman in that same storyline. That would be cool too.
True, but going off of the idea of it being like a what if, you'd have to play it out originally first and then get to that point. So that's why I think for it to be more dramatic for a dark multiverse story, having Wonder Doom be after Super Doom.
And then she affects Batman. He becomes Bat Doom, and you have Aqua Doom. It's like the Earth.
Oh, they always the planet of the Doomsdays.
And then Darkseid opens up a portal. He's like, "Nope, I'm not going here. I'm out."
Yeah, that reminds me of the final arc of the pre-New 52, the Reign of Doomsdays, where you had 4 different Doomsdays. You had one that was Cyborg Doomsday.
Oh,
you had Eradicator Doomsday. You had Superboy Doomsday. And you had Steel Doomsday. And then you had the regular Doomsday. Yes.
Oh my god.
Galactus had figured out how to clone Doomsday. And then leading up to it, you had them, each of these Doomsdays going after the 4 Supermen. And they took their traits from them. Now, eventually, the Eradicator Doomsday tunnel that ended up having, like, time had no meaning. And when he came back, he had become Doombreaker. Not Doombreaker, Doomslayer.
That's actually kind of cool. So he's basically
he was filled of entirely of self-hatred that he wanted to wipe out anything Doomsday. But he also felt since Earth had figured out a way to clone Doomsday, he must wipe out all of Earth.
That works. I like that. That's actually really cool.
He was filled with hate. I've already went over that with someone else. Look at my Pro Teachers noob on that one. You'll like it.
Yeah, I will. So on that note, everyone stay heroic, and I will see you in the next one.